Rescuers say they've been having a tough time keeping up with all the calls, really. And in Houston alone, the police chief now says emergency crews have rescued 2,000 people from the flooding, and truly that's just the beginning.
Hurricane Harvey caused us to change our entire plan for the year. It became apparent to us that the way that SLC could help was to deal with the emotional trauma caused to children. And the best way to help children was to support the teachers that are working with them. So SLC created a space for teachers to come together and learn about strategies to go back into the classroom and support their students.
Research tells us that we can directly address children's trauma through play and story. The conference provided teachers with research-based strategies to use throughout the classroom in the form of play. Through dramatic play, through play with blocks, sensory bins, water tables, sand tables, story baskets, story acting. And not only did we provide teachers with the strategies to implement these activities in their classroom, but we were also very fortunate to be able to provide them with the materials they would need to implement these strategies when they entered the classroom on Monday morning.
So when Harvey was going on and my students came back to class, there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of students really apprehensive about leaving their parents, which is normal for the first beginning of the year for pre-K students. And then the emotional trauma hit them. It was after about 4 weeks that they realized their minds were able to comprehend what had happened to them. And then some emotional trauma and emotional insecurities started to come out with the students. So it was during that time that we really had to work on those connection and story and dramatization to help their needs. One of the stories I read as an extension with my students is Raindrops Roll. They created water on our portrait with just regular paint. The water came in. My mom said, "There's gonna come more water. The boat get me safe. It was scary. The water was black." This was one of the family's favorite art extensions that we did because it really captured that moment in their life. And we were able to give this back to them to have as just a memento for their child. So I am involved with SLC through the Early Literacy Leadership Academy. So through SLC, I was better able to help my students with the emotional trauma of Harvey. As an educator, it changed my entire year. It challenged me to meet those emotional needs of my students, to understand my families and where they're coming from, and the power that story has to change their lives and to change my students' lives. I realize how fortunate I am to be able to have these tools in my teacher tool belt and to be able to use them with my students every year, no matter what trauma comes their way, whether it's a flood or whether it's a family member passing away or whether it's some other traumatic event. I have the tools necessary to help those students through these traumatic events.